Hello, dear loyal friends. On April 2nd, the Wall Street Journal published an article by researchers and analysts emphasizing that control over the Strait of Hormuz is crucial for winning this conflict. The Persian Gulf region, particularly the Strait of Hormuz, is strategically vital as it handles about 20% of global energy exports and 30% of fertilizers and aluminum. Whoever controls the strait and has military forces and bases there can secure shipping traffic and gain a decisive advantage in the regional power balance. The recent conflict disrupted this balance as Iran temporarily closed and took control of the strait. Analysts noted that whoever controls the strait by the end of this conflict will emerge as the winner. Later, there was an announcement of a 2-week ceasefire to guarantee the reopening of the strait. Iran agreed to reopen it in exchange for the US halting military action. This would allow around 300 oil tankers, carrying roughly 130 to 150 million barrels, to pass, stabilizing global energy prices and providing some breathing room in the Gulf. While initial interpretations suggested a severe strategic setback for the US, the agreement actually included specific Iranian conditions, such as collecting fees on passing ships in cooperation with Oman and maintaining Iranian rights over uranium enrichment. The ceasefire ensured that shipping in the Strait of Hormuz would be supervised by Iranian forces under agreed technical limits. Revenue from fees would benefit both Iran and Oman, setting a precedent for international straits. In effect, this arrangement gave Iran a strategic advantage, with control over the strait and the ability to enforce fees, while US forces temporarily stepped back. Despite fears of escalation, the agreement maintained stability in the region, prevented repeated strikes on Iran, and allowed commerce to continue under monitored conditions. No, not permanent. We are talking about a 2-week period. During these 2 weeks, a ceasefire was in place. Trump told Sky News that, although he accepted the 10 Iranian points as the basis for negotiations, not the 15 American principles, the situation was controversial. Some analysts called it catastrophic and extreme. During these 2 weeks, Iran collected revenue and consolidated its influence in the region. Meanwhile, Israel excluded Lebanon from the discussion but continued military actions there, and Iran also struck Israel. Many hawks were unhappy with the agreement. Lindsey Graham argued that any ceasefire, peace, or arrangements must be approved by Congress. Initially, there was resistance, as Congress had not been supportive of the war effort, but now, after seeing the strategic setback, objections were raised. It was clear that the ceasefire could be temporary, and American strikes might resume, either during or after the truce, without changing the underlying reality. US aircraft carriers were deployed, and military forces were present in the region, but restoring or replenishing the destroyed missile stockpiles, Tomahawks, GSM missiles, and other defenses, was impossible within weeks, months, or even years. The loss of these defense systems represents a complex and long-term logistical challenge. It would take years to rebuild what was destroyed, and neither the US nor Israel could fully compensate for these losses in the short term. If hostilities resumed, the reality would remain. Iran controlled the Strait of Hormuz. Reopening the strait allowed the collection of fees on international shipping under Iranian supervision. This stabilized the market and kept prices steady. Ships passing through the strait paid approximately $2 million each to Iran and Oman. Historically, even during wartime, countries like China, France, Greece, Pakistan, and India paid to pass Iranian oil through the strait. By enforcing fees on an international strait, Iran established a precedent and strengthened its strategic position. Any renewed conflict would not change the fact that Iran effectively controls the Strait of Hormuz. Attacking Iranian energy infrastructure would provoke severe retaliatory strikes in the Gulf. A ground invasion of Iranian islands might temporarily seize them, but the strait could not be permanently reopened under US control, and Iranian forces could respond with significant losses. The ceasefire served Iran's interest in avoiding permanent war while still maintaining influence over key energy assets in the Gulf. Strategically, Iran could leverage the moment to negotiate a lasting truce or peace agreement with the United States, using investment incentives, infrastructure development, and sanctions relief. The 10 Iranian principles included lifting all secondary sanctions from the 1970s, which was considered essential to the negotiations. Ultimately, it became clear that the Strait of Hormuz was far more strategically important than the nuclear weapons issue. Control over this waterway determined the regional balance of power and the outcome of the broader conflict. If Iran acquires nuclear weapons, it would be protected against any attacks. No one could strike it, invade it, or take action against it. However, its economy would remain limited and life would be constrained, similar to North Korea, making it vulnerable to internal unrest or revolts. The Strait of Hormuz, however, is even more strategically significant than nuclear weapons. Iran should use the nuclear issue as leverage in negotiations with Trump, the Democrats who could block any peace agreement, and Republicans who might oppose it. The US cannot sustain a ceasefire for 2 weeks and simply give control of the strait while expecting it to be stable without concessions on the nuclear matter. To make the ceasefire credible and sustainable, Iran should offer concessions on the nuclear issue. The main focus of the US-Israeli campaign against Iran has been the nuclear program, although other topics like regime change, ballistic missiles, and air and surveillance systems are involved. Currently, Iran has 600 kilograms of enriched uranium, of which 400 kilograms could be handed over to Trump, not to the International Atomic Energy Agency. This would represent a symbolic concession in exchange for securing the strait, solidifying Iran's strategic control, and establishing the collection of fees as a global precedent. Under international supervision, Iran would retain enrichment at a civilian level of 3.5 to 4%, and its uranium could be exported as fuel to countries in need, creating a market under US oversight. Nuclear energy facilities could operate in coordination with neighboring countries, allowing cross-border energy cooperation, for example with Saudi Arabia. This approach would maintain Iran's leverage over the strait while ensuring a regulated nuclear program, preventing further strikes, and avoiding direct confrontation. The current momentum should be used by Iran to negotiate a lasting truce or peace agreement with the United States, exchanging nuclear concessions for sustained control over the strait. Maintaining this balance stabilizes markets, allows revenue collection for reconstruction, and prevents escalation. Any renewed conflict would face the same strategic reality. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and attacks on its energy infrastructure would provoke significant retaliatory damage. A ceasefire or renewed peace must include official agreements and trust-building measures. Iran must conclude this chapter without sanctions, collect fees from the strait to fund reconstruction, and offer nuclear concessions as a goodwill initiative. This would form a final peace agreement, as every war ultimately ends either in the surrender of one side or through negotiation. We will continue to follow all developments closely. I invite you, my friends, to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and also like the video below, as this helps the channel grow. Thank you very much and see you in the next recording.